century modern home. And out here in the front of the house, you can see the scale of the additions. Off to the right, we've got mostly new bedroom space. The original house in the middle is very obvious. And then off to the left, we have got what is going to be mostly new living space. Now, while this was the original front of the house, we're actually going to flip that equation, put it on the other side, and there is a lot of work to do over there. Underneath the new living space of this addition is a garage, and that means that right here there will be a driveway, and this is obviously hardscaping. And it's just one piece of the hardscaping that we have to figure out on this side of the house. We'll also have to deal with a retaining wall, a new walkway, and a couple flights of steps up to the new front entrance, as well as a patio all the way back there. Some of them are going to need to be heated, others not. Some of them are going to need to be porous, some not. And so Jen Nawada has taken our homeowners and their landscape architects on a shopping spree to try to figure all of this out.
Hi guys.
Hi.
Hi Jen.
Hi Jen.
How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good. So we're here to look at many different materials for many different spaces, is that right?
So we have a couple of different areas. We need to pick pavers for the driveway, pavers for our patio, a couple of retaining walls, and am I forgetting something?
And the steps going from the patio around the back of the house, right? Yep.
So stones for that too.
Okay. So what kind of feel, what kind of look are we going for? What kind of style?
So Jen, it's a modern house, right? So we're going to try and match the modern aesthetics. I think we're going to use a lot of gray, a lot of concrete, square lines, rectangular blocks. And if it's really made of concrete, I think we're going to keep the look of concrete rather than try to match or mimic like a natural stone or something like that.
I like that idea.
Just keep it minimalist, try to match the modern house. Yep.
I like that idea. So
Yeah.
and then that will just unify the space. Does that go along with your design aesthetics for the plan?
Yeah, it does. And actually, it's been very interesting because usually New England, you think about stone. Everybody has stone, and the opportunity to use these modern materials doesn't come along very often.
Yeah. So, all right, well, let's get started. What do you want to look at first?
Let's start with the walls. I think they're over here.
Okay.
Okay, so there's a number of different products that we can look at. So these are precast concrete blocks that you can see. And I think this is actually a stone coping. And they all kind of lace together like this, and it could create the wall that we need, which only needs to be about 18 inches high there at the patio.
Okay. Well, I mean, I like the color combination. I like the grays and a little darker band. I don't think I'm in love with the rough edges, right?
Yeah, it's not clean enough for us, I think.
It's not that modern look that you're going for.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, the colors are right, but the finish is not.
All
right.
Well, I think they have a couple of other ones we could look at.
Let's check it.
Okay, this is another product that I think you might like a lot better. You can see it as a much more neat and clean finish, much more modern in my mind.
I really think it's going to fit the character and style of your house and what you're going for. What do you think?
Yeah, it almost reminds me of the house, you know. I think it'll be a good fit. Especially I see the clean lines, I see a more homogeneous, gray surface. I see a few color variations. I see a little bit of brown in those stones out there, but I think we like the more grayer, the bluer, the cooler gray.
Yeah, I agree. I think I like that better too. And maybe we can have an accent of the black that we saw on the other wall.
Yeah, I think so. And because your wall is going to be a little bit higher than this, so there'll be room for that accent band you talked about being sandwiched by those different rows of the concrete blocks.
So is this going to be your selection, or is it a strong contender?
A strong contender for sure.
Okay, excellent. Well, let's go look at the patio surfaces.
Good. Okay, so as you can see, there's lots of different kinds of patio blocks that you can choose. I mean, there's this one, which is a fairly typical concrete block paver, but I'm not sure this is exactly what you want.
Right, you want clean cut for modern.
No, I agree. I think you guys know us well by now.
Trying.
Right, and I think this might be a lot more what you're looking at, because as you can see, these blocks are, they have a very neat, clean edge here, and you can see there's lots of different colors here, but you could have a more uniform color if you wanted, and I think this would work really well in the patio.
And another thing, this patio has to be a permeable surface. It's a requirement from the town. So any paver we pick has to be able to be the permeable paver so water could travel through.
Right.
And then size-wise, is the size or shape okay?
I think I would go with a larger format and more uniform gray color maybe.
Yeah, no, I think that's the right choice.
Okay, well, so over here are a few larger pavers. So these pavers would work. When you typically lay a patio, these nubs right here are the spacers to appropriately space the pavers, but you need a permeable paver. And when I'm talking permeable, the surface is not permeable. The water's got to penetrate through the joints. So, Blair, do you have one of those spacers? So they have to be spaced differently. These are applied in between, and it gives a little bit wider joint, and you have to use a specific stone that doesn't wash away, and that will allow the water to penetrate through.
Well, I think these would work.
Yeah, I like
and with
that
the
too.
spacer, I think if you can make it permeable, I guess the town will be happy and we'll be keeping all the water on our property. So it'll be good for everybody.
Absolutely. Excellent. So what's next?
So the next thing we need to look at is the pavers for the driveway. And as you remember, since we have a heated driveway, we have a concrete slab, and then we need to mortar the pavers on top of that. And so the jointing you see here is really rather tight together, but you need to have a 1/2-inch joint to be able to get the mortar in to get these things neatly set on top of the concrete.
And you also want to think about patterns. Do you want a running bond pattern? Do you want a herringbone pattern?
I think I like the herringbone pattern better, but probably not in so many colors, like a more uniform gray or black.
And well, that would work nicely in terms of its application, just keeping in mind about the jointing that we talked about.
So should we go check out that step? Last
I think
thing on
so.
our
Last
list?
thing on the list. Yeah,
All right.
let's do it. Okay, so the last thing we need to think about is steps. And this type of material, which we saw on the concrete block wall out there, also comes in a step material that's about 6 inches high. And I think that would work just perfect for the transition from the patio that goes up and around the house.
And also another thing to think about, the face. Do you want it to be thermal clean cut, or do you want it to be a rock face irregular edge?
I think we prefer a clean cut for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that would be fitting with the overall aesthetic we've been talking about.
Fantastic. All right, so this is great. We've seen a lot of great things today. You've made a couple great decisions. We need to make a few more because we got to get these orders placed and get moving because we have to get it installed in the ground.
Good.
All right?
Let's do it.
Last week, Norm and Charlie framed for the skylights, but it was raining too hard, so they couldn't put it in. So this week, we're going to finish it up. You guys framed up that opening. It looks pretty good.
Yeah, we doubled up the rafters, installed the timber hangers as needed.
Yep.
Just have to snap these lines.
All right, so you got the holes already pre-drilled up in the corners. So let's give it an idea where it's going to go. All right, that's the bottom, and now the top. Okay, that gives us an idea where it is. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut from the hole, following this line at about 45 degrees, and cut in to the center. All right, so this is that rubber roof that we installed. Now we'll cut the other one out. Now we'll cut the other two. Connect it down the middle. Okay, now what we're going to try to do is pick this up. I know it's stuck down with the glue, but we got to be able to roll it back and up. It's always tricky. This cement really holds well. The thing about this glue, it holds. Now we're actually pull this back, but we're actually going to have to cut a little further out to make room for the thickness of the curb. All right, that's loose. We got to peel it back even more, but let's lay the curbing on there. Now with this skylight, it actually requires that you build your own curve to sit it on. So line it up with the lines there. And because this is such a flat roof, we made the curbing out of 2x8s. All right, so what I want to do is I want to mark the outside of the miter right here of this bevel piece. I like to put this bevel piece on the curve so when the rubber comes up, it doesn't have a real sharp 90, and we'll bring it up and then drop it on like that. All right, let's slide it up. What we got to do is cut our corners a little bit deeper. and peel back more rubber. Do a rough cut. I want to get this ISO board out of here. To get this board, this underlayment, it's actually called an ISO board, which is an insulation, and we don't need it in the opening, obviously, but when cutting it oversized a little bit, we'll should be able to see what we're doing. Now we can see the structure. Okay, now we're going to remove these two center boards right here so we can get some more accurate measurements for our rough opening. Get the boards out of the way and take our measurements. Slide this on. Under the rubber. Pull the rubber up on this side. All right, we're going to space our header about 3/4 of an inch space between the header here and this header right here in our curb. And we've centered it in the opening at the top. Now we'll just screw it down to the roof. Now that our curbing is fastened to the roof, we're ready to reattach the rubber roofing to the roof and to the side of the curbing. Contact cement works on gluing to itself. When both surfaces are dry to the touch, the contact cement is ready to go. And you only have one shot at it. We can't just take it and flip it up. We want to roll it into it gently because we don't want to get any bubbles. Push it in, push down at the same time. Just like that. Now we're going to bend it over and nail it. You don't want to have any slop in it. All right, now we're ready to start sealing up these corners. And we can't use this rubber here because when you stretch it, it will go back like a rubber band. So we're going to use uncured rubber. When you stretch it, it stays stretched and we can bend it around the corner. So we're going to just take this right here. This is an activator. And I'm going to just paint it on the rubber and I can go a little beyond my lines. All right, you can see that it's starting to evaporate a little bit right now. So we'll start in the middle, we'll peel off this. Okay, so now I want to put this one right about halfway here. Where are we? Looks like about half right there. And I want to be up a little, and we can push that in there. I want to bend it around, but I want to take this bottom piece off before we bend it. Okay, so now keep that up, and I'm going to force this right around the corner, stretching it as I go. So, just like that. Push it right in. Okay, now we're going to force it down and keep it down to the curb and out, just like that. Stretch it, pull it, and push it at the same time. All right, now we have to put a bead of lap sealant on each one of the seams. That will give it added protection. Okay, so the manufacturer's not calling for this, but we're going to run a bead right across the top and sit the window in that wet sealant. Just a little added protection. All right, let's get the unit, drop it on. Okay, we'll put it on there, center it. Beautiful. All right, check the center and we'll screw it off and that'll be watertight.
Looks good.
The storm and sewer lines come out of the basement, go underground to the street, and a few weeks ago Richard took a camera, stuck them into the pipes, and Richard, you found all sorts of problems, which explains the industry we've got going here today.
Right, we found rocks, we found rodents, and we found cracks, and now we have to replace all this lines going out here. So our site contractor, Jimmy McLaughlin and his crew, yesterday opened up this trench, and we found a ton of stuff. So look at this. Right here, you can see the two lines that come out from the house. One is the sanitary sewer. That's the stuff that comes from the toilets and fixtures. And the other is the storm sewer, rainwater. Now, we thought or assumed, like most houses, that it would have been that the storm went all the way to the storm main, which is out here in the street, and the sanitary went to the sanitary sewer. But they combined together as a Y right here, and they were all encased. And we found that the drain from this house came all the way over here and looped over.
So we've got two things to fix. We can't run our gutter water into the sewer line. That's got to now go across the street.
Right.
And we've got their sewer line over there in the wrong spot.
Right. Before they go any farther, they have to get clearance from the local inspector who's right here overseeing it. Jimmy's explaining what's going on.
So who's responsible for all of this cost? I mean, there's a ton of stuff here that was unexpected.
It depends on town to town, but in this town, it used to be that the town owned to 10 feet outside the house. Now the homeowner owns all the way to the sewer. So this is on the homeowner's dime.
It's an expensive hole.
It is.
Everyone here is pretty much seeing these conditions for the first time, trying to figure out what's the solution.
Yeah, and what's going to last over time.
This is going so well.
Right. I don't think people realize how many things run under the street and how much activity happens with these utilities.
I do now.
You do.
Hey, Hugo.
Here you go.
Hey, Tom, Kev, how you doing?
All right.
So let me show you a problem we have over here at the foundation. Is a crack in the wall that runs right down.
Down and sort of all the way through. I mean, I can see 6 or 8 inches of it right here through the whole foundation wall.
And you'll probably see a hairline crack outside.
So what do you think caused this?
Well, think about it. When they poured this foundation, although it's 12 inches thick, it doesn't have a footing.
Right.
But also the drainage outside. In the wintertime, the water runs down and it freezes against that foundation. And you know what happens with water when it expands? It pushes against the foundation. And this is just a little weak link right here.
All right. So I know you've got a plan to address the water. We're going to get much better drainage.
We're gonna address the water out there to solve that problem, and Hugo's gonna fix the problem right here.
All right. So what's the solution here?
So what are you gonna do here, Hugo?
Well, Tom, we started off by first taking a grinder and giving this crack some depth so we can introduce the material a little better.
Now I noticed that when you ground this, you actually went like a V. Normally I would think that you would have straight groove.
So if it was something that we were tucking in cementitious, we would cut it straight. Because we're relying on epoxy and it's low viscosity, we know we're going to bond to the roughness of the concrete anyway.
I see. Okay.
So the next step that we did was after we ground this, we took some alcohol and just surface wiped the substrate. And then we're going to start off by applying these ports next.
And what do these ports do for us?
We're going to introduce the low viscosity resin through these so that it goes into the crack.
So you're ejecting this epoxy into the crack for us?
Correct. Yep. This will be surface mounted right here by using epoxy.
It's funny, when I see this thing, I thought you had to drill holes in it and insert that in this way.
Right. It's
But you're going to mount it on the wall that way.
Correct.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
We're going to rely on the epoxy to hold it in place.
Okay.
The only issue with today is the temperature. It's a little cold.
Yeah, it is cold.
So we're going to have to run a little heat. Kev, do you mind just turning that heater on for us?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. So what Ryan's going to do now is he's going to butter up the back of these things, and then he'll be able to surface apply it right over that crack that you see there on the wall.
Now I'm surprised that when you push that on the wall, it doesn't block the hole for the other epoxy to go into.
Correct. What they did, Tom, is when they designed these, as you can see in the back of it, they made the centerpiece so that it's protruded.
Oh,
It
yeah,
almost acts like a little dam to keep the epoxy from getting in there.
I see. So there's a little ridge there that prevents it. As it squishes in, it doesn't block that hole. That's pretty cool.
So what he's doing now is he's using that fan tip to bridge across the opening, as you can see there, and he'll work his way right down the crack, Tom.
Yeah. So this is acting like a little dam.
Exactly. So he'll just tool that smooth, and he'll switch over to the other material, which is a low viscosity, almost like water. And that's going to act, like you said, as a dam so that the grout could travel behind it. So that tube that you see that he's using.
So that's like an airline fitting to lock onto my gun.
Exactly. It locks right onto that port so that we know we're not going to lose any material.
So he just pushes that on?
He pushes it right on, and if you tug on it, you can see that it locks right into
You
place.
can see it moving.
They'll keep him from losing any of that grout.
And even though we can't see it, it's flowing into our crack.
It's flowing
behind.
into that cavity behind, correct.
Well, there it is.
And there it is coming out at the top. We got some good back pressure, and at least it didn't ooze out from the outside, as we can see here.
So once you're done pumping it all in and this crack fills up, how long for it to dry or set up?
Before you remove anything off, we like to give it at least 2 days.
2 days.
Yes,
So
exactly.
So after 2 days, you will remove the stuff on the front?
Correct. We're going to take that right off, grind the substrate, so that when you look at it, it's aesthetically pleasing.
So the big question is how strong is your repair?
It's very strong. I mean, typically concrete, what did you think this is?
This wall, this